Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our latest Lunchtime Live. I'm Rob from Zero Waste Leeds, and for those of you who are new to Zero Waste Leeds, we're a social enterprise set up a couple of years ago. Basically, our aim is to help to build a movement to create a zero waste city in Leeds by 2030. So we're doing all sorts of things on that kind of theme, and we've been doing quite a lot over the past kind of 3 months. Obviously, kind of things have changed, in many different ways for us over the last kind of 3 months. And we've been focusing a lot on things like helping people to waste less while we all kind of stay at home a bit more. But we also have other kind of projects on things like clothing, on school uniform, reuse, and lots of other things too. But we've been using these kind of lunchtime lives basically to kind of share our platform with people in the city who are doing interesting stuff kind of broadly around waste reduction, but just more generally quite interesting as well. And you might remember we've chatted to people from St Gemma's Hospice, from Foodwise Leeds, and quite a few other projects in the city. But I'm really pleased that today we're joined by Jack Simpson from Hyde Park Book Club, and Jack will be. We're talking about Hyde Park Book Club, but also talking about an interesting project called Digital Access West Yorkshire. So, Jack, welcome today. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks a lot for having me. Really looking forward to it.
Thank you. I mean, would you mind starting a little bit for people who don't know about Hyde Park Book Club? Just tell us a little bit about that and about yourself and how you set that up.
Yeah, of course. So we started the book club almost 5 years ago as people will probably be able to see, a kind of an old petrol station, which has got just amazing space. And it was a fancy dress shop at the time, and they had a small room. Yeah, they had a small room that they weren't really using really. So you went in and it'd just be full of cardboard boxes and, nothing much going on. It was the old kiosk that people would go in and pay for things. I'm told lots of Rizzler and cigarettes, basically. This is what I'm told. This garage is known for in the area. And yeah, so we just started that. And I was living in London at the time, and it was, we never really thought of it as it was just a bit of a side project, really. But I think one thing that we found really quickly was, and it's probably an increasing part of my work, is just that if you give people space, if people have kind of resources and, a bit of an area that they could try something out in, quite quickly, more and more people want to do it. And it's maybe something, to say that, especially Hyde Park, such a vibrant area and great places like, the Brunel and the Picture House and Left Bank. But for all those students, there's not that much space really. And for all the people that have stayed behind and kind of live in places like Headingley, and there's not that much space. So we found lots of people wanted to do things, and then it just expanded out from there really. And we had lots of great, we've got a great team of people, and we just, I guess that's the main thing really, is making space available for people's ideas. And it's just kind of developed from there.
Yeah, good. Because it's interesting because we talk quite a lot about our work in terms of sharing our platform, in terms of an online platform to give other people the opportunity to do their thing. And I suppose it sounds like part of what you're doing is doing that in a kind of physical sense as well, in terms of, giving people a chance to.
That's definitely how it feels. Yeah, I think you and I were talking a little bit just before we started. But I think all of these things, whether we're talking about kind of waste or whether we're talking about art and the kind of aesthetic pleasures, it's just, for me, all attempts to just make human life just better, or generally life kind of better really. So I see all these resources as just that's the point of them really. And obviously they need to fit in a wider way with they need to not lose money generally. I don't have an incredible amount of money to lose, but that's not really that. That's a side constraint really. Like, the thing that we always try remain in the space of is, we're here for ourselves and for others, just to kind of create space that allows things to be a bit better really, that allows life to be better.
No, sure. And obviously the last 3 months has been challenging for all of us in lots of different ways. I mean, how has it been for you and Hyde Park Book Club? Obviously not being able to open for a while, but I see that you're pretty active again now.
Yeah, so it's kind of getting back going, and we've been amazed by the support really, and I think there's been this kind of moment where localization, or people have really started to people were always engaged with local businesses and indie businesses, but now more than ever, like for me, there's a couple of shops near where I've been, where I live, and I was telling you, there's a Wood, and this has now become the world really, and the online world has become the rest of the world. So it's like you're either in a local space or you're in everything, and yeah, so we've really felt the support, really, that people kind of recognize that these small players are really part of what makes a neighborhood good. But yeah, it's been really difficult. I mean, the first few weeks was incredibly hard, really, because the government were telling people not to go to venues and not to be around people, but there was no support at that point. And, I was really pleased with how everybody dealt with it. Everybody we had some really open, frank chats where people, talked about just how many hours they would need in order to get by. And, other staff, offered to take holiday so that other people could get hours, and everybody really dug in. But then once the furlough system kind of like kicked in, there was quite a nice point, really. And, I think I've talked to a lot of people about this, about the difficulties of talking about some of the positives that have come from this, and a lot of the people that I'm around, especially the younger people that there's not an incredibly good job market out there for, so they're doing a lot of hours quite often in something that sometimes isn't exactly what they want to do, or even for me, lots of the admin and stuff I do is in order to make it a profitable business. But just to have that time that I think a lot of us had, probably about a month into it, up until maybe sometime in kind of May, where the world had just slowed down a lot. And, lots of, especially our work, really demands that you practice this extrovert bit of yourself, the social bit of yourself. But just to really be able to be like, I just hardly speak to anybody apart from the couple of the staff that weren't furloughed, was really good. And just to sit and reflect on, there were points where we were like, we might never reopen. So, in a quite a stoic way, accepting that there's nothing is necessarily going to happen after this, kind of freed us to say, well, what do we want after this? And, what kind of work do we want to come back to? And we, obviously quite fortunate to be in that position. I actually think, I'm a northern person working in culture. I'm not a natural kind of Tory fan, but I actually think the support for small businesses was effective and good at that point. So so I guess we were lucky to live in a kind of society where that's even possible, really.
Yeah, and you're right. The people, I think, have a lot of us have really valued some of the local stuff that's around us, whether it's the park or local shops or whatever. So I mean it's really nice to hear that things are. I think, as you say, we don't want to go back to normal, do we? The normal we had before isn't what we want, but that it's good to hear that things are starting to kind of,
definitely
towards something approaching normality for you.
And I think the kind of the normal, or this kind of new normal thing, I think we'd miss a chance if those of us that think that the world could be organized differently didn't make that argument and communicate it well right now. I think there was definitely a feeling among some people that after the 2007-2008 crisis, that had we had the messages and the skills to communicate an alternative, but we, I say we as a kind of like some kind of community of progressives, but didn't. But I think now, you look at how much cleaner the air was, how much I feel like lots of people have benefited from not having an hour and a half commute each day. So if we're not pushing for, well, look, maybe there's an alternative to this. And I think, we were talking a bit about growth, and, if by growth we mean material growth, it looks like that's not possible.
Yeah, no, sure. And it's interesting. I think we said before we started chatting that we could probably talk for about 2 to 3 hours on this kind of topic, which could be good for another kind of conversation. But I suppose what we were also keen to focus on today, it is a project that has really kind of grown out of this crisis, really. So I mean, could you tell us a bit about the Digital Access West Yorkshire?
Of course. Yeah. So I mean, I'll be honest, the kind of beginnings of it are kind of hazy because they happened in the middle of this, there's this kind of crazy perfect storm of change, and, lots of discussions about really serious situations people were in, whether it's older people or anybody who's not got access to communicate. and might have relied on that kind of being in a pub or whatever, even if they were by themselves, to just have some kind of human contact. All the way to obviously kids, lots of my, I grew up in East Leeds, and lots of my good friends are still kind of like working kind of like schools and whatnot over there, and just hearing, them sometimes in situations where kids were being sent things to print out, and they were just saying there's just no way our kids have got printers. And then on the other hand, talking to friends who maybe their kids are at kind of like quite expensive schools, and they're saying, well, it's hardly dropped off at all. The kids are still doing however many hours a day. So I guess it kind of began with that, and I'd done when we were at this point where we weren't sure if the businesses were going to reopen. My natural sentiment, and I think a lot of other people's, like Emma's and Ben's and Claire's, who were all part of the digital access group, was to ask really what we could do for the city and what we could do for the wider community. And it didn't seem to me, and I'm sure to some extent for those guys, it didn't really seem to me that there was much point for the next couple of months in pushing Eiger or the book club, because I was like, there's nothing there to push really. And also we've been supported in some sense by society to kind of keep going. So then the thing is, well, all of our projects are about helping the kind of wider society. So what does that mean now? That means something very different at the end of March 2020, right? So then we kind of started to link up this idea that there was a lot of need for digital access, but also we kind of knew people that were doing all right and might have just a laptop. And I guess when you look at a council or another body like that, they're there quite often to do certain things, and their structures are really amazing at doing certain things. And I think so highly of lots of people at council and all the stuff they do. But understandably, if we got a friend of mine's Mac, and we just knew that somebody at a school in Seacroft, knew that their kids, it's like that's the kind of thing we could do in a week. We could put together some kind of framework that made it as safe as possible. But you can't really expect councils to do that, I don't think, like, in quite the same way. And I think part of the kind of environment or the discussion environment that we were in was really that look, there were things that there were little bits of this problem that we can solve now. Let's just do it. And let's not kind of wait for anything wider. There will be all kinds of great people working on other ways to solve things, but we literally know there are people in Leeds that have a laptop, and there are people in Leeds that need one. And it's kind of fine if the city just gets under that. The city doesn't need permission from local or central government to solve its own problems.
Yeah, no, sounds good. So, and tell us a bit. So, in terms of the basics of the scheme, as you say, it's about kind of people who've got laptops and tablets that they no longer need, and kind of getting them to people who do need them. What's the bit in the middle? What are you doing there? Yeah,
so the bit in the middle, people are dropping them off at the book club, and then we've got a couple of guys, Alan, Sev, who are doing lots of the kind of with the others, with Claire and Ben and Emma and I are doing kind of like cleaning stuff, but then the tech guys are doing all the wiping and making sure they're kind of safe to then go out.
Because I mean, that's important, isn't it? I'm sure the first question you get asked is what's going to happen to any data that's on there.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, to be honest, that's why it's great having, obviously got Ben who does Solidaritech, and he'd essentially, I guess, kind of road tested lots of these things. So when I go in and maybe Emma goes in, like fairly like, let's just drive this laptop to someone's house. He's really good at going, well, yeah, look, here's what we want to consider. And even things like, here are the levels of risk, right? Like, we can do X and it'll be this quick, but this is the level of risk. And I think that was the other good thing about getting together people like this, that all in their own worlds were kind of problem solvers, because you could just organize around a single problem. Whereas I think in certain other structures, you maybe have people that have been working together 15 years. It's maybe not quite got that. We are literally only on this Zoom to solve this single problem. We don't have to kind of, But yeah, so people drop them off at the book club. They get cleaned up. They get taken out. So the first ones that we got out were to Chris Dyson, the Parklands head. And he distributed them in East Leeds. And it was amazing, really. So we had somebody who just had, it was an academic friend who had like a spare Mac, and, they just kind of slowed down a bit, but would be perfectly good. for a kid to do their homework on. So then they got out to them, and they're with them now.
Yeah, fantastic. And again, I think that was the other thing I liked about the project, that you're kind of working with other organisations in the city that know people who could benefit, and you're working with them to find the people who you can pass the kits on to, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, and I think there's an interesting point there, isn't there, about your kind of permission point, about just kind of getting on and doing it. Because I'm with you. I mean, I think the council, for example, have done a fantastic job in so many different ways in the last 3 months, at a time when we've really needed them to. But there are always other things, naturally, that other people and organisations will be better at kind of doing. And I think there is something, we try to do it in our work as well. There's a real value in trying to pull a few kind of willing people together around a particular problem and just get on and do it. You know what I mean? And I think that's what you seem to be doing through this.
I think so, definitely. I think, growing up in Leeds, and I think I've left, but I've kind of come back, and so I think I'm in a reasonable position sometimes to talk about a fairly, as you and other people that are here are, about a kind of Leeds psyche, and it does come up quite often. I was talking to a friend who works on some funding projects as part of the council, and she was saying, look, people are always saying, like, why can't we just get on and do this? And people at the council who are doing as much as they can with the resources they can are like, just get on and do it. Just get on and do it. Yeah. So so you end up in these kind of all of the energy is discussing almost the politics of a project. I'm in Farnley, and there's a kind of reservoir near us that could do with cleaning up a bit. And I've ended up in these like quite elongated Twitter discussions with different people who feel like they own it's me who's been working on this, and even kind of Rachel Reeves at points diving in and going, yeah, look, I agree, give me a shout after the kind of lockdown. And I think sometimes there's probably something in the way that we understand government and local government, something almost paternalistic that we expect from them, that stops us just going, actually, we could just do this. I mean, I think there was something that, of all the bad things that have happened and all the difficulties that we've had, something I think in the lockdown was just, look, they have got a hell of a job on their hands dealing with some stuff that's so if we can get 20 laptops to someone else in a school in Leeds, I don't think we need to bother anybody's email inbox with this.
No, it's good. And on that point, really, and so in terms of how people can get involved and support you, I mean, there's different aspects to it, isn't there? So I mean, I suppose if we first of all start with, if I've got a laptop or a tablet, what's my best way of donating that to you?
Yeah, so I think for everybody, really, if you have a look on the website, so
we'll link to that below this post.
So that's just Access WY. If you go on there, it's got all kinds of information about how to get things over to us kind of safely, and it's kind of it's safe for the people dropping them, and it's safe for us. But generally, dropping them on a weekend at the book club, if people can come between 11 and 12, that's great, because we've got techie people coming afterwards that can kind of look after them that afternoon. We will be open more soon, so we'll probably be putting up something that just says, look, you can drop them at other times as well.
But 11 till 12 on a Saturday and Sunday at the moment is
that's the ideal time to drop off hardware. And then there's also the GoFundMe page, which will kind of go towards other little bits if a laptop needs little parts, or if we need to help people maybe with some Wi-Fi, all those kind of things. And that's, the support there has just been amazing. We had somebody do it as one of their, I think it was like their birthday, on Facebook, you can say, here's my birthday thing. Yeah, and that went really well. So so if anybody wanted to do that, and also we are quite kind of porous as an organization. I think that if somebody looks at that and they think, oh, actually, this is something you could do that would be really good, they'd be really welcome. So if somebody was like, oh, you know what, I've got really good, I don't know, I do press in kind of like fintech or whatever, and there's some kind of angle there, it's like that'd be fine. Just people could get in touch.
So people could get in. You kind of open to people getting involved as volunteers?
Absolutely. I mean, we definitely don't feel so much like we own this problem to solve, and we don't necessarily, if the government or whoever rolled out a big solution to this in 2 weeks, we'd be happy just to close the website. Like I think that's one thing that I've enjoyed working with everybody on it is nobody feels like an ownership wider than just doing what we can do.
Yeah. And as I say, I think that's the thing that attracted us to the project, that it is just a very kind of practical, you've got on and done it. You're welcoming people in to kind of get involved as volunteers or whatever it might be. And I think it's really good. Is there any, in terms of local businesses, is there any way that local businesses get involved or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we'd love more donations from large businesses, really, or kind of like not even large. I mean, I guess somewhere like the book club might be able to drop off our laptop, but we had like Zandra Moore dropped 7 off at the weekend, and that was just amazing, right? That's like really that makes like a big difference. So I think whether it's the two things, I guess, are if there were any organisations that can drop them off, especially kind of multiple. So if there's like an educational institution or somewhere that are kind of upgrading and they want to drop a few off at once. And then the other, like Stuart came down the other day, Stuart Clark, and even just kind of like just helping amplify what's going on, really, because I think a big part of what we all feel this is about kind of occupying some space that keeps pushing that this is an issue. So just help getting word out about the project feels like it partly does part of what the project is.
That's good. And I mean, and that's a good point. So Stuart Clark, Leeds Digital Festival, I mean, I think he kind of, well, he went to his neighbours and his network, didn't he, to see who had kit and then dropped it off with you. And that's something I can see someone on the comments saying that Gail in Pudsey LS28 saying she'd be interested in kind of dropping, picking stuff up.
Amazing.
If other people could do that, because I think so many of us will have an old laptop or tablet, which isn't the latest edition, but actually in terms of doing basic stuff, once you've kind of worked your little bit of magic on it, would be really important for people.
I think that's it. I think it's when we think about I often think about, so when we think about digital access, the thing that you'll probably recognize from Adam Smith, where he talks about how a linen shirt in kind of Greek times wasn't a part of living a dignified life, but in the 1800s, having a linen shirt is part of it, right? And I think that when we think about digital access, and I think Labour were doing some interesting things on this, it really is. It's there with kind of utilities that you need to take part in contemporary life, really. So I guess, I mean, there is some kind of guidance on the site about what to drop off, but if it doesn't need to be amazing a machine in order to give somebody the ability to kind of finish off their A-levels or something like that,
Yeah. No, great. And as you say, you've got the site's really good. You've got loads of information on there, so we'll make sure we link to that in terms of just a bit of guidance to people. So
great. Yeah,
cool. I'm conscious we could chat both about this, but kind of more broadly for quite some time. But we're probably to a close at some stage. But is there anything else that we've missed at all that would be useful for people to know?
No, I think that's I think that's all. That's covered everything, really. I mean, if people basically could visit the site, could visit the socials, if they've got a machine, if they could drop one off, if they've got any other ideas, cool. But even if they just share what we're doing, that is helpful.
No, fantastic. Well, no, I think that's a good place to finish. So as I say, we'll share information about, I mean, both Hyde Park Book Club, hopefully if people have not been before. I mean, it is a really good, interesting kind of hub of activity. So you kind of, as things get back to some kind of normal, please do go and visit them. We'll share info about that and about Digital Access West Yorkshire, about how to get involved, either donating your stuff, supporting the crowdfunder, or perhaps getting involved as a volunteer, or maybe someone kind of, getting a few of your friends or neighbours together and dropping off some stuff. So, Jack, can I just say thank you very much again for your time today?
Thanks a lot.
And we're really interested to talk to you, and best of luck with your future work.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks a lot, Rob.
Yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Thank you. All right, I'll see you again.